is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I welcome you to another Two Hats special of community events. Let's look in and see what's really happening.
And good afternoon and welcome to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis. Patti is down with her family. Her brother-in-law passed away last week, so she's with her family today. She'll be back next week. Our guest today is Amber Roman. She's the new Dallas LGBT police liaison. And welcome, Amber.
Thank you so much, David. I'm very excited to be here. I am the new LGBT liaison. I wanted to stop in and chat with you guys.
Yeah,
glad you're here.
Yeah, we're glad you're here. Laura doesn't like us anymore. She was our old liaison.
Oh, no. That's not true. She loves you guys.
So what happened? She didn't retire.
No, Laura is still in the department, thank God. She's been a great help to me. Laura's in a unit that monitors all of our, protests, parades, and things like that. She's also our hate crimes expert. She works directly with the FBI. So her role is very essential. The LGBT liaison should kind of be under a community affairs type office, that's the office I work out of. So the decision was kind of made to pass the torch. And here I am.
Yeah, because she preferred, and this is what she told me, not preferred, but she was busy escorting dignitaries.
She has a nice job.
So when she got to escort Michelle Obama, I said to her, okay, so you prefer Michelle to us. It's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay. We're not going to be mad at you for that.
Yeah. I'll give her a pass on that.
Yeah, but she can't be on our show anymore.
So tell us, what does a liaison, or particularly LGBT police liaison, do?
Okay, I'll try to give you the short answer.
We have an hour.
Okay, let's just talk.
Yeah, stretch it out.
So I work for the Office of Community Affairs, and the office acts as an interface between the department and the community, helping resolve issues and just building and maintaining relationships. So within that office, obviously, we have several outreach teams. The LGBT liaison, which is me, falls in between all of that. So I am the liaison for the LGBT community. Of course, I'm an officer for everyone, but I'm the person that I'd like people to go to talk to. A lot of times as being LGBT here in Dallas, or just anywhere really, sometimes you don't always feel comfortable talking to police for whatever reason. So the position really was created and designed to be that middle person between the community and the department. So I'm for the people I work in the community, of course, specifically in the LGBT community, just to help however I can. Sometimes it's asking a question, talking, or sometimes it's serious where somebody like to talk to me and they feel like they can't call 911. So it's a variety of issues to make a long story short, but.
And how would somebody get in touch with you if they're really not comfortable talking to the police, but there is that liaison, maybe she can help with this?
Yeah, absolutely. Several ways. So all my information is online if you go to the DPD homepage. So that's my phone number, my email, even my Twitter handle. So even if you'd want to
directions to her house.
No. It doesn't get that good. So I mean, you could send me a message on Twitter, something so simple. Do you have a moment? Could you please call me? That's fine. Or you could send me an email, same thing. Or you could just pick up the phone and call me. And if I don't answer, leave me a voicemail and just say, hey, when you get a minute, I'd love to talk to you. It's as simple as that. I mean, it's really easy nowadays to get in touch with anybody. So I try to make myself as accessible as possible, of course, with limitations. But whatever anyone feels more comfortable with, whether it's a phone call, email.
And you say some people just aren't comfortable talking to the police, and I know at the newspaper I get that sometimes, where somebody will give me information and would rather talk to me than the police. Like sometimes the police will call our office and say, hey, such and such happened in Oak Lawn, or such and such happened and the victim was gay. Could you put this online for us? And it's usually they're looking for something, or they're looking for just general clues about a particular crime. And sure, not a problem, we put it online. There was one famous one. He still has not gone on trial after 2 years. It was the case where Christian.
I knew you were going to go there.
Yep. he used to work in our office, so we had particular interest in it. And what he did was he allegedly, because it hasn't got on trial yet, killed the person who owned the house, and it was a two-person house, buried the body in the backyard, sold the house, tricked the title company into actually transferring the funds to him by faking ID, and nobody reported the person who was killed. Nobody reported him missing even for several months. He didn't have family, friends who just didn't report him missing. And on Facebook, Christian, or allegedly, left clues that he had left town. He resigned by email, so Dart, who we worked for, wasn't looking for him. Other friends, he moved to Austin, that kind of thing.
I heard about that. That was actually really insane.
Now, Christian is still in jail at Lou Sterrett waiting trial after 2 years of
But they caught him in California.
And here's how. Somebody who knew him had heard from him. We put online, if you've heard from him since this happened, please let the police know. And he contacted me and said, I have a phone number from him, I got a text, I have a picture of where he's living, and we transferred all that to the detective, and within 2 days they had him. And they caught him in L.A. Several points to this. First of all, tips can be, that's how you solve crimes.
Oh,
you don't solve crimes because, this happened, where is he? How come you haven't caught him yet?
Sure, of course.
And it's just a community effort from all ends. That's how you solve crimes.
You solve crimes by everybody working together. The police are just the ones who have the authority to do the arrest. They're the ones who have the authority to, or the ability to do the investigation. I mean, I couldn't investigate anything other than ask people to let us know if you've seen him or heard from him.
I mean, you're absolutely right. And the Dallas Police Department, we understand that very well. We can't be successful at our jobs without the support and the help of the community. So we need that to be a very good, positive working relationship. Because just like you pointed out in your story, I remember hearing that a couple years ago, and I read some of the details just in the paper. I wasn't involved whatsoever in the case, but I was just like, wow, how did nobody know that he really wasn't living anymore? Like you said about the Facebook and the email resignation, I was just like, well, even if let's say somebody I knew did that, at some point, if I'm really close to them, when I want to see them in person, or hey, you moved to Austin and didn't say bye, like for me, I was just like, it was so perplexing. But you're absolutely right. Tips, a lot of times, it's just us talking to each other. We have a big network. And that's really how a lot of things happen, is from people coming forward and saying, I saw that person, or us posting something, with you, or just you yourself, and somebody reaching out and say, yeah, who you're talking about, I saw that individual.
And what was interesting, and here's an example of working with the community or possibly working with a liaison, I was talking to the detective who was investigating this case, and from what was written on Facebook, I was helping him translate from gay into cop, because he didn't speak gay. And but one thing I noticed was, on a certain date, the posts were no longer being written from a PC, they were being sent by a phone. And there was a way that you can tell on Facebook.
Yeah, it tells you.
Yeah, it tells you.
So, and I can't even think of what it is while we're chatting, but when I look at it next, I'll see it again. There was a particular date, and the detective who was looking, as we're talking a little bit, the language was different, the wording was different. It was like full sentences all of a sudden became half sentences and phrases, that kind of thing. That kind of indicated this might not be the same person doing this.
Right. Yeah. Very little detail, shortened to the point.
Yeah.
And you know why that's so off is because we don't talk like that. People don't converse like that, right? So we actually have full sentences and full thoughts, even if it's something over text message, or, well, I say text message, but email or like a Facebook message. You can tell that somebody's engaged in whatever conversation you're having. So when it's one word or two words, it's like, that's weird.
Yeah.
It gives it away.
Yeah. And talking it out with him a little bit, I think it helped both of us kind of figure it out. So, I mean, this is an example of, if you see something, say something. If you have any indication, pass it along, because you might put it together with other things.
Yeah, never think that what you know or what you've seen isn't important, especially in the example you just gave. I mean, here we're looking for somebody who, caused the death of somebody else, somebody who got murdered. So I'm very glad that happened. I know we had talked about this, and you told me this story, and I was just blown away because I didn't know that. I didn't know somebody contacted you and all the missing pieces towards the end. So I think that's great.
And then, of course, when you're somebody who worked with this person, and it was 10 years since I worked with him, I was calling the Los Angeles County lockup, and she said, boy, there's been a lot of interest in this case over the last day or two. And what we were waiting was, when's he going to be extradited? And the extradition hearing kept getting put off. And I had just been interviewed by Channel 8 and was on the air. And she said, so when I explained it to her, she said, so this is one of those cases where somebody gets on the air and says, he was such a nice person and did such a good job. And I said, yeah, that was me yesterday on our ABC station here. And she just started laughing. I said, well, he was a nice, normal person. You knew him too, right?
I knew him too. He was,
and he was probably one of the most reliable photographers we've ever had.
Wow.
So people change also, and that's another thing with, just because the person doesn't mean they're not involved in something.
That's absolutely true.
So as an LGBT community liaison, what's the most common, I guess, complaint or concern you've heard from folks in the LGBT community so far?
Well, I mean, so far we haven't started that. I only took over the position a few weeks ago, so I'm doing all the fun stuff still.
Gotcha.
I'm still introducing myself to a lot of the groups. I'm still, just kind of letting everybody know I'm here, my intention. So I'm sure at some point, that'll happen. But I don't have any background so far in the position to say, well, I've got so many complaints regarding this issue versus that, So I'm still doing the fun stuff.
And
would Laura prep you with anything? Like, say...
Well, I mean, no, she gave me a lot of good advice. Okay, I always joke with her. I tell her that she's my Yoda. And I was like, you can't go anywhere. You're going to help me through all of this. And she's been really great.
It's funny because Lerone's my Jar Jar.
Oh, goodness. I mean, these are essential people you need in your life. Everyone needs a Yoda, so she's been wonderful. I told her, and I'll share with you guys really quickly. So Laura leads our sensitivity training, so she'll give a block of instruction to all of the new recruits about the LGBT community. So when I was in the academy several years ago, she came in, she of course taught that portion, and I'm listening, of course, intently, and I'm paying attention, but at the same time, I'm talking to myself, and I'm just thinking, wow, I didn't know the department had, LGBT liaison. I was like, that is so cool. And just like in my mind, instinctually, I just told myself, I said, I'm going to do that one day. I mean, hand on the Bible, I promise this is really, my mental thinking at the time. And so when all of this came to fruition, and here I am talking to Laura in her office, and, she's telling me the ins and out, I told her this story, and she started laughing. I said, I promise you, it's so weird how you put things out into the universe, and they come back to you. I never thought about it again. I just, in that moment, I said, and I was listening. I told her, I was listening very intently to what you were teaching, but at the same time, I was just kind of in awe because I thought that was great. I love talking to people. I love being in the community. So
now, Patti does that training also.
She does.
By the way, you're my Princess Leia.
Aw.
Okay, that's a little better.
I know.
Tell him thank you for the correction.
But Patti does the training with Laura very often, and she has for years. But we rarely talk about it on the air, especially from your side. What are the things that you and you heard other officers around you really picked up from their training?
Well, I guess what do you mean, like as far as what they picked up from the training session? I haven't talked to many people who've told me something directly. I think most of us are familiar with, gay, lesbian, transgendered, at least anybody who kind of grows up in a big city. So I don't really have an answer for that. Nothing was like...
What did you pick up? What do you remember from that training session then that, not that you didn't know...
Yeah, for me it's a little hard because I feel like I already know my own community, but I really liked how kind of Patti and Gil's another gentleman that teaches the class as well, kind of broke things down like as a teacher aspect. Like, let's talk about things in general terms. Let's talk about what we what we kind of hear and what we say. Let's just be open and honest and say, well, what kind of words have you heard, derogatory words. And they do some exercises where they try to get people to see what it would be like if you were somebody who is LGBT but has to be closeted for whatever reason, family, religious, work, your own personal, worries. And they do an exercise where they tell somebody to describe their partner. So they find out who's married or who's just in a relationship. It doesn't matter with who. And just have a conversation and don't tell me that person's gender. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a great exercise. So it's like me talking to you and saying, okay, well, David, I know you're married. What does your spouse do? Mm-hmm. And then we just have these conversations. So it really gets people to understand, if I'm hiding, if I have to live my life like that, now other people can see. You literally become a master of lies, of dodging questions, right? Because who doesn't say, oh, it was so great, me and my wife went to the movies. We all talk in plain terms when we're at work. How was your weekend? Oh, great, me and the family went somewhere. And to not, identify it being male or female, that's very difficult. You can't go a long conversation before
After a while, it gets contorted.
Exactly.
And then, asking me, what is her such and such? And you're having to make the lie bigger and bigger. And the longer it goes, the worse
people
it is.
assume all the time.
So if I'm talking to you, I'm like, so what does your wife do, David? This is me saying, if I'd never met you before. So I think, if anything, the reaction I remember, I think, was like, wow, I never thought about things like this. More than a personal conversation that I had with another classmate to say, well, man, Amber, I learned X, Y, Z. It wasn't that kind of, conversation. It was just, I could tell that people were like.
And if you work in a company where you tend to keep things out on your desk, personal things on your desk. Everybody else has pictures of the family. Oh, why don't you have any pictures of you and whoever you're seeing, or you and your wife? Then it really starts getting awkward in companies like that.
That can be the case. Unlike myself, like I don't, I'm married. I don't have a picture of my wife at my desk. But I'm just not that decorator. And she's listening, so I'm sorry, honey. I will put one up shortly. But for me, but it doesn't matter because I'm out and open. So again, that probably doesn't play into me.
But you're right. People assume all the time, especially when you have a kid.
Especially, yes.
I've corrected people many times. Oh, her mother. Oh, no mother. She has two daddies.
Yes.
That type of thing. Yeah.
We need to take a break. You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis. Our guest is the new Dallas LGBT police liaison, Amber Roman.
Yay.
And we'll be back with more with Amber right after this.
This is Rollins Gilliland, and I'm listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3, and darn glad to be doing it.
And this is Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis. Patty will be back with us next week. Amber Roman is the new Dallas LGBT police lesbian, and she will. we're just.
Can you do all my introductions like that? Amber Roman is the new LGBT lesbian. Hi, everyone. Hi.
It's on her badge.
Right.
Police lesbian.
Can I get an LGBT badge that says that? Yeah.
Well, Amber, since you're new, at least to this position, we just want to find out a little bit more about you. First of all, what made you want to become a police officer in the first place?
Okay, so this is going to sound completely cheesy, but it's the God's honest truth. I didn't always want to be a police officer, but I always wanted to speak to people. So when I was a little kid, I always felt like if I could talk to somebody, I could help them maybe get through what they're going through. So the earliest memory I have of that is maybe when I was 11, and I told my mom I wanted to be a counselor. Because again, I felt this, this urge within inside me that if I could just get somebody to hear me, I could maybe possibly affect some sort of change. Again, I wasn't able to verbalize this at 11. I felt that, within me. So, and that's something that's always stayed with me. And it kind of came together kind of weird. So, of course, through high school and everything like that, I got involved, and I still felt the same way. And, I went to college, of course, and was just majoring in psychology, and I always thought I wanted to work for CPS, and that was maybe the best way to use this passion I felt I had just for people in general. And then one day my sister said to me, she's like, Amber, why don't you become a cop? And so I laughed, and I was like, what? Me, a cop? I said, I don't want to write tickets, no. But what she did is she planted that seed in my head. And then so one day I was just thinking to myself, man, I think I could really do that. I think I could do a great job. I could really help people as well. So on a whim, I applied. And long story short, here I am. So
Writing
I think,
tickets?
yeah, no. I still don't really write tickets. I never really liked writing tickets. I always felt bad. So again, I'm very happy that, my life and my career has kind of led me to where I am now. I do think a lot of that takes hard work, but half of that is also divine intervention. So somebody upstairs has been very kind to
And
me.
every police officer I've ever talked to, their least favorite part of the job is writing tickets. They'd rather be out there, not that traffic safety is not something that officers are concerned with. Of course they're concerned with traffic safety, but just writing tickets.
Well, people have to pay these fines.
Yeah.
You have to. I mean, it's money, and I realize that because I had gotten tickets before too, and you just feel like, oh man, this is going to be how much. So doing that, that was never my favorite thing. Now, of course, you're right, not to disregard our traffic safety. A lot of accidents happen, and some people do need to be written a ticket, but it was just never my favorite part of the job.
Yeah.
So we were talking about when you part of the sensitivity training that you didn't. That's when you learned that there was a community liaison position. So prior to that, were you hesitant to be out at work as a cop, or it's like you just never thought about it because you're in a younger generation than David and I?
I wish I was young. I feel old, but thank you.
So
Do I look 21? No.
You do. Actually, 18.
All right. No, wait. I want to be able to enjoy an adult beverage. Don't say 18.
So, things were very different now, but there was a time, and not just our police department's history, but I'm sure nationwide, where you could not be an openly gay cop.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
were you not here for No Homo Cops?
When was that?
89, 90?
Yeah, I was in high school.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute.
I was
But
in high school.
what were you
Yeah,
saying?
I wasn't here for that either. But I was a small child, I think, in '89. So of course I wouldn't have remembered that. But
Yeah, she was a small child.
No, I
Patty
wasn't.
was a small
I'm
child.
sorry, David.
Ron was a small
I digress. So
Josh was a small child. You're all small children.
to answer your question, no, I was completely out when I joined the academy. For me,
awesome.
for me personally, I was like, baby, I'm too old. We're going in, and I'm me. So let's just do
Take it or
this.
leave it.
Yeah, take it or leave it. Again, now, I mean, I'm not like just, hey, I'm Amber, I'm a lesbian. It's not something I lead with when I introduce myself, but it's certainly not something that I hide. And so I've been myself for a very long time. I've never felt the need to do anything else. So I am very fortunate, though.
Okay, police officers, this is Dallas. I'm not calling police officers conservative.
Here we go.
No, I'm not calling them all conservative. I'm sure on our police department there's many Dems as there are in Dallas's population.
In the middle of the road.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But it's a more conservative profession than, say, working in my office. What do you think? Or working at KNON. Have you run into any resistance?
Me personally, no, which I am very lucky that, I haven't had very negative experiences with my coworkers or just kind of any type of environment where I felt like I couldn't be myself.
And that's
awesome.
I still find it interesting. Okay, so the No Homo Cops thing was in 1987-ish. Micah England was applying to be a police officer. And at the time, 2106 was valid. It was until the Lawrence case in 2003. 2106 is the sodomy law that's still on the books, but with
Not
the preface
enforceable.
that it's not enforceable, and the legislature refuses to take it off the books. But it's not enforceable, meaning that a police officer who has to swear having never committed a crime,
right.
other than, what are you allowed, like traffic ticket or...
Yeah, a minor offense is like misdemeanor C, which covers traffic.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can't have done anything worse than that, and 2106 was worse than that. She couldn't be hired. Now, along with this, she sued and eventually won.
Thank God she did.
but never became a police officer for other reasons. Along with that, at Dallas City Council meetings, now the City Council could have changed the rules, but while the case was going through court, They didn't, and that was before our first ordinance, because our first non-discrimination ordinance for city employment, and this came partially as a result of Micah England in 1994, I believe. And Micah England was settled, I think, about 1983. There was big demonstrations, people showing up at the city council meeting week after week after week with nice big signs and big buttons that they were wearing that said "No homo cops."
Wow.
Yeah, that blows my mind.
And when we voted on our first non-discrimination ordinance in city employment, which covered police officers, you're a city employee, it was surprising some of the people who did vote with us, like our Mayor Bartlett at the time, who was a Republican in Congress. He had Sam Johnson's seat, which came down further into Dallas. It was surprising, but when he finally voted, and he voted last, and it was a roll call vote, and people made a comment when they voted in several cases, he said, you know, in my own company we don't discriminate. I don't see why the city of Dallas should discriminate. Domingo Garcia was on the council, and I was sitting in the first or second row, and Domingo just looked at me and kind of went, huh? He's been mayor for 4 years, and there was no indication that he had any sense of values. I mean, but Domingo just looked at me and just, huh? But it was implemented. Mm-hmm. Gay cops were already on the force and started to come out. People like Lynn Albright, who was already an officer and became our first official police liaison. Mm-hmm. The no homo cops people, I don't know what they were afraid of. I think it was that this is just going to be a first step in all kinds of things. Special rights those people are going to want. You know, special rights to be employed like I'm employed, and have a family like I have a family, and be married like I'm, you know, special rights like that.
Yeah, I think you're totally right about that.
So,
you know, and I'm so glad. I mean, I read her story and I heard everything that happened. And I'm so sorry that she wasn't able to fulfill her, you know, her dream of becoming a police officer. But I know that, you know, what I'm able to enjoy now as being an open lesbian on the force is because of what she went through. So, you know, I wish I could say thank you personally to her, because there always has to be a first, unfortunately.
Right.
And that's sad, right? You know, but how does everything happen? Is somebody finally says, this is ridiculous. You can't do this to me. So thank you, Micah, if you're listening, which I'm not sure you are, but
she's not in the area.
Yeah.
So the other funny story along with that was I was vice president of Dallas Gay and Lesbian Alliance at the time. Chief Ben Click had just been hired. He was a great guy. And so we're going down the reception line, and I introduced myself, and he said, oh, and don't worry, we're going to continue our affirmative action program with the LGBT, or the gay and lesbian community, he would have called it at the time. You know, don't worry. And somebody leaned over in his ear. He went white. He looked at me, and I was there with Deb Elder, who was president of Dallas Gay and Lesbian Alliance at the time. And he just said, let me get settled. I think we need to talk. And we did. And I mean, he just assured us that it was no longer a problem.
Yeah, and through everything that Micah went through, that's how the position was created. Mm-hmm. You know, obviously a lot happened, and the department realized, you know, we need an LGBT liaison. And of course, Lynn Albright was
There was one liaison unofficial before that. His name was Earl Newsom. And he took it upon himself. He was the beat cop on Cedar Springs. And he took it upon himself to actually do his job, which was going into every business, every bar, every restaurant in the area, and just to introduce himself, give them his card. You know, obviously in a place like Cedar Springs, which really was still seedy at the time, there are going to be crimes. And so he made himself the unofficial liaison, and he was actually one of our first grand marshals of the Pride Parade.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. What year?
Oh, I don't remember what year he was liaison, but it was in the 80s sometime.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's since retired.
Yeah.
Do you know what year he retired? I never met him.
Early 90s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah.
Just exactly what you'd want in a police officer. He cared about people. He was just a great guy.
And I really think that's how all police officers should be, right? Like, we don't have to agree on religion or politics. That's not the point. But, you know, as a police officer, I'm a police officer for everyone. It should not matter, right? My job is to keep the city safe and enforce the laws, and that's it. And treat people with respect. That's the bottom line. It's it can be very difficult sometimes because of maybe miscommunication, between officers and certain communities. But at the end of the day, I'm here for everyone. I'm your officer. I'm everyone's officer, and I'm going to treat everybody the same. And that's really all anybody wants. I mean, think outside just LGBT. That's what everybody wants.
Of course. Do you know if any other major cities have? I'm just curious.
Liaisons?
Yeah.
Almost.
LGBT.
Yes, almost every department does.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, Seattle actually, they're like light years away, I think, from what we are. Right? I mean, they've been doing some amazing work, but yeah, it's something that every police department probably I don't know for sure, but I know several others. So Miami, of course, Seattle, San Francisco.
I'm pretty sure all the top 10 cities at least.
Yeah, and Dallas is such a major city, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Dallas is not like just a little blimp on the map, so of course. Yeah, the position's been around for quite some time,
Yeah.
Although we were one of the first with Liaison. That was
so we beat Fort Worth.
Yeah. They didn't have a Liaison until the Rainbow Lounge.
Yeah, I remember all of it.
Did you beat Houston?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
If anybody would know, David would know. So you know what? I take his word as gospel.
We're always
well,
talking
I'm
about
fine with that.
The Houston beat Dallas thing. So I'm just poking at David.
But so are you in touch? You said Seattle's light years ahead. Are you in touch with any of these other liaisons for
me
ideas?
and the Seattle liaison actually had a conversation. He's a very nice guy, and I like to talk to a lot of people. So even though I've only been in the position 3 weeks, I'm trying to do my homework and research and stuff like that.
What are some of the things that they're doing when you say light years ahead? What are they doing that? I
just think they've implemented some things several years before anybody else. They initiated a safe place for LGBT. So Safe Place is an organization. You get businesses to kind of join. I think a lot of the QTs here in Dallas, you'll see something that's like a yellow. I don't know if it's a house or not. I can't remember, but it just is a safe place. And what it is so any youth that's homeless can go into that gas station and will be provided with free food, and somebody there will help them. Call the police if they're a runaway. If there's so many issues facing our homeless youth anyway. So just a variety of things, whatever they're going through, and they know that somebody there is going to be kind to them, give them food or something to drink, and help them contact the authorities if they are finally ready to, right? Because some youth don't want to talk to police. Right. So they kind of implemented something like that, but specifically for the LGBT community. So I was reading up on that, and I just thought, man, that's amazing. We need to do that here. Again, I've only been here 3 weeks. I'm doing my homework, but these are things that I would love to see happen in the city of Dallas as well. I mean, it's partnerships, right? These organizations and businesses.
Partner with Promise House.
Exactly. And what they did is they partnered with Seattle PD and Safe Place. So that was just one thing that I was like, that's
I'm talking about getting them help and place to stay. Partnering with Promise House.
Well, of course, once somebody from a Safe Place location contacts police, then yes, we have tons of resources. If this child is looking for to go back home, or hey, I need to go to a shelter, can you take me one where I'm able to go because I'm 16? However, whatever the issue is. So.
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, there were some news making assaults down in the Oaklawn area.
Yes.
And we've had several of the survivors on our show. This went on for what? About a year and a half?
About a year, and they kind of petered off.
And then they just kind of stopped. Not that crime stopped in the Oaklawn area, but these particularly assaults. But that doesn't mean, I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about that. That doesn't mean that those crimes were necessarily solved.
Right. I think so what I kind of like to tell people and just kind of remind them, anytime anything happens, a crime's occurred, most of us, we want the entire thing, kind of what you would equate to Law and Order 1 hour series, right? Crimes committed, police come, they get all the evidence, and now we're going to go find our bad guy, and we found the bad guy, he's arrested, and he's prosecuted, and he's in jail. Yes. All that happens within an hour, so that is completely unrealistic to how real police work happens. Of course, we know things don't always happen so easily, right? Time lapse, can somebody remember the description of the person, and then actually finding the person. So what happened when everything was happening in Oakland, people were being hit, physically assaulted, in some cases nothing was taken. In other cases, personal property was taken.
And the thing is, they were mostly being hit from behind.
Right.
So by the time they were, and by hit, I mean with a metal pipe across the head, so that when they got up, they literally could not see, and so there is no description.
Exactly. Because when you're disoriented out of the blue, if you take a blow to the head, that really you're going to have, hopefully, nothing more that happens than that.
Right.
Than, but so you have all of those factors as well. And so what happened is everybody was involved in that. I'm sure you remember. It made the news. It was a big deal. Mm-hmm. Everybody was out there. The mayor was out there. The wonderful Mark Cuban, did what he could to donate resources. We had extra patrol. We saturated that area. I think we even had a safety committee that recommended we need to do some more lighting, tree trimming. It was a big deal. So there were some people arrested, but there's nothing that factually I could give everyone to say, hey, these are the persons responsible for what happened in Oakland. Here they are. They're in jail. Everything's all right. I can't say that. It was really a culmination of efforts. But what I try to remind everybody is, I grew up in here in Dallas. So by the time I was 18, I made my way to Cedar Springs. I was out. Why? Because it's the fun place to be. We like to be very social.
And a place where we could be ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah, the gays love being social. So I'm no different. And we like to think that our neighborhood is safe, right? We want our neighborhood to be that safe haven. And a lot of times it's hard for people to remember this is an entertainment district. And sometimes somebody's coming over here not to rob you because you are gay, but because it's a crime of opportunity. Just like in Dallas, we have a big entertainment district off of Harry Hines Northwest. We have a lot of the strip bars and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Robberies are happening over there as well. Not because a certain person of color goes to that location or anything, or having anything to do with their sexuality, but because maybe, when we're out having fun, we have a little something to drink in our system, we're not paying attention, and we're not as aware. Or even if that's not the case, if I'm a criminal who wants to commit a crime, I'm probably going to go to these locations more than everybody else because there are going to be more people there. It's going to be more of an opportunity for me to do that.
We'll talk about this more when we come
Sure.
back. We have to take a break. You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with Lerone Landis, and we're talking to the new Dallas LGBT police lesbian, as she prefers to be called, Amber Roman. We'll be back with more right after this.
Listen to Lambda Weekly. I hope that you will too.
And you're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. We were just talking during the break. Amber said, "Oh, you're so lucky to do this every Sunday," and I said, "Yes, every Sunday, since 1990." But she asked, "What happens if all three of you are busy?" And that's never happened. I'm going to Florida week after next, but I'm leaving on a Monday, coming back on Saturday. I'll be here for the show because that's the kind of dedicated person I am, and the airfares were cheaper.
I'm trying to think. I don't think
we've never all missed.
Yeah. No.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
I think we got close one time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's say in that scenario that you did. I'm available. Just give me a call.
Okay.
I don't know if you'd want to let me hold the reins though completely by myself. I might mess up something and then be like, David, I think I broke something.
Josh is here to run the board.
There's a fire. There's a fire. What do I do?
Just before the break, we were talking about the assaults that were happening in Oakland a couple of years ago, and how I don't want to say they came to an abrupt stop, but they did stop.
They kind of petered out. Because there were one or two that happened again, after months of not happening, that were the same MO.
Right, and so Amber's just telling us that it wasn't just a matter of we caught the culprit per se, but some combination of things.
Yeah, absolutely, because we were given several different descriptions. Some people said some of the guys that attacked them were black, Hispanic, and white. It wasn't just this one narrative of we're looking for this one type of person. We got several different reports. So, again, that makes it a little difficult when people want, well, did you catch the guy? Well, it's kind of a longer conversation than me just saying yes or no. And I don't mind that because I like to explain things. I think a lot of times where we fall short is maybe just in our explanation communication. And so people leave with the wrong feeling or the wrong narrative or feel like they didn't get an ending. And who doesn't like to close the loop on things? I mean, that's how we operate in our minds. There's a beginning and we all want to see an end. And I certainly understand that. I don't want anybody to feel that, just because they teetered off, we don't need to continue to be safe, always walk in pairs.
Right.
I understand everybody wants to go out and have a good time, but, if you can avoid doing so, please don't park 7 or 8 streets, especially just not alone when you're going to walk to your car when you finally leave. Now, while I wish we could all say, oh, you're safe in the neighborhood is in the middle of Dallas. Dallas is a huge city. We need to remember that. This isn't like, some small town. We have so many things going on all the time here. So we're a major
like
city.
you pointed out before, one of the reasons that an entertainment district like Greenville Avenue or Dallas or Uptown would be targeted, people in those areas would be targeted, is you're more likely to be drinking. If you're going out drinking, you're more likely to have cash on you because that's what they're looking for. They don't want your credit cards in most cases. Other types of thieves do want your credit card. Most of the time, they don't really want your credit card. They don't want your teller card because
they don't want your stamp card.
Well, there's a picture of you withdrawing, and
absolutely
they'll be able to get that. Anyway, if somebody is preparing to go to Oak Lawn, are you safer to have some cash on you so that if you're held up, you have something to give them, or are you safer without the money?
I don't know. I think that's going to be personal preference because at the end of the day, there's no way that, let's say I'm the criminal that's going to go, I see you, David, and I'm like, I'm going to rob that guy or I'm going to threaten to hurt him if he doesn't give me everything he has. I'm not going to already know that you don't have cash on you. So is that going to prevent somebody from doing that?
Okay, so there was a holdup about 2 weeks ago, and somebody else held up in a similar way. Police are trying to put the two together about 3 weeks before that. In this most recent one, they didn't have any cash on him, but he took the phone and wallet. If he had some cash and could have handed him cash, it would have avoided some hassle, because it's annoying when you have to...
There's no way for us to know that because then we start playing the what if game. What if you handed him cash and then he's like, well, now I want your cell phone. You don't know the frame of mind of the person who's actually doing the crime. Obviously, they're taking a huge chance. I think anybody who's willing to go out and rob somebody, I think that kind of speaks to the desperation they certainly feel at the moment because it's a very risky thing to do. It's Texas. A lot of folks have guns, so you're taking a chance.
Yeah, I agree with Amber. That's not a guarantee that the guy or girl would have just taken it and just went on.
And I'm not looking for guarantee. I'm looking for, what we find is, and it tends to be, and they'll take the cash and run, and so it's over sooner, or often, you might not have that.
What I have heard in my crime from working in law is that people will get robbed, give the culprit what they want, and they still get shot.
Absolutely. You just can't predict.
You just never know.
One of the things that one of the guys was prepared for in this latest attack, he said something that he read was take your cell phone, throw it under a nearby car. Because the guy who's doing the attacking doesn't want to bend over, reach under the car, search for it, and after the guy ran with the other one's wallet and phone, the one who threw his phone under the car reached under, got it, called 911. So that part of it worked out. Now, obviously, that could have pissed off the person who's robbing them.
Right.
So, and I'm not really looking for a prediction. What's the recommendation? Somebody has a gun.
I would say instead of worrying, do I throw my phone into the car? What do I do? Do I just hand them cash so maybe I get to keep my wallet? In that moment, you really don't know how you're going to react. So I would just say if somebody threatens you, give them your property and that's it. Don't worry about doing anything else. Give them your stuff because nothing that you would hand anybody else is more important than your life.
So one of the things that he did was he's on the phone with 911, and I have to laugh because of the way he told me the story. He's running after the person who robbed him, and the 911 officer is saying, "Don't pursue him." And he said, "Well, there aren't any police here. Who else is going to?"
Yes, I was very shocked when I heard the story.
He followed him into an alley. He was not real close, but he did follow him into an alley. Finally, the guy was already in his car, saw somebody running down the alley, so he started backing up into him. This guy had the presence of mind to get himself between the alley and a telephone pole, so he couldn't back into the telephone pole. He would have hit the car. He would have destroyed the car, so he took off away again. But he could have stopped and shot him.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just do a quick PSA, everyone in the city of Dallas, everyone who's listening on KNON this lovely Sunday. If somebody holds you up, somebody presents you with any kind of weapon, please do not chase that individual. You really are taking a huge chance of something horribly happening. You don't when these people who are out there robbing, right, they're in a certain state of mind, and if you challenge them, you don't know if they're going to turn around, feel threatened, and shoot you. And even sometimes, maybe not out of intent, but because a lot of people have their finger on the trigger and they have horrible gun discipline, and now the gun goes off and you lost your life, even though the person didn't mean to shoot you. But when you challenge these people, what are you doing? Like, you really have to think about your life. Is what you're chasing for worth you being gone and not being here for your family?
Right, exactly.
One of the things he did have presence of mind to do as he's chasing him down the alley, he saw him throw some stuff out of the truck, so he put his husband's phone on Lost, and it started beeping, and they found the phone. He had thrown those things out of the...
Yeah.
So he got everything back.
Yeah, well, that's good. Lucky.
It's good for him.
It was real lucky. But that's something to know how to do, is to put it on locked, if for nothing else, so that the person who just stole your phone can't use the phone either.
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
A lot of the iPhones have Find My iPhone, and like, let's say me and you were hanging out, David, and I lost my phone. I could log into your Find My iPhone, and so when you put it on Lost, it makes this horrible beeping sound, like this noise, and so that helps people find it. And I'm hoping in this case, maybe the guy's like, oh my God, the phone's now making noise, let me just get rid of it. Whatever the case, I don't know, but it's very helpful.
Yeah, do you think part of the reason, or one of the things that contributed to the downfall of the assaults in Oak Lawn were the citizens themselves?
Oh, for sure.
Because I know that, in my 20s, I used to just go out there and get drunk and have a good time also. But, I have learned and listened and okay, you don't do certain things anymore. I don't even go out that much anymore, but when I do, I don't walk alone. As a matter of fact, I make sure that if we drive and try and park near one another so we can just drop one another off.
Sure.
I don't carry cash at all. You're very much being aware of your surroundings. I think maybe that has contributed to.
Well, the community really stepped up when everything was happening. We had a lot of VIP programs that were started. We had just a lot of folks coming out and saying, we're gonna patrol our own neighborhood. We're gonna be out here looking for somebody who's doing this. We're not gonna take this lying down. So the community stepped up huge, and I believe that was one of the huge reasons we were able to kind of signal, look, people are watching, and it's not just the cops. And once that word gets out, word of mouth is like the best thing. You talk about radio and newspaper, word of mouth spreads like nothing else before. Yeah. And I think that, thank God that happened, that people were like, no, we all need to do our part. Take Back Oak Lawn was formed. A lot of people just, donating their time and saying, I'm going to, take back my own neighborhood. I'm going to patrol. I'm going to call if I see something that doesn't look right. And that's what we need everyone to do. We want the community to be in the community.
How does that ever conflict with not just in the LGBT community, but any neighborhoods that want to take back their neighborhood from crime? Is there a fine line between doing that and becoming vigilantes?
Oh, for sure. So our VIP program, VIP stands for Volunteers in Patrol, and basically what you do is you come to a little training session at the police department or your local substation. We go over some safety things. So there's strict guidelines, right? We don't want any group to form as some sort of vigilante. That's not the purpose of the program. The purpose of the program is just you to partner up with somebody, patrol your neighborhood, and if you see something, call 911. You're not allowed to get out of the car.
So when I was out patrolling Oak Lawn and I started shooting people, that was not what I was supposed to do.
I think that's a crime, David.
Oh.
I know it's a crime.
Yeah, I think I might have to call some backup.
Because I remember in the 80s, one of the groups, I think it was in San Francisco, maybe even in LA also, that was formed to protect
Guardian Angels.
The Guardian Angels. They had the little pink triangle and their little hats.
Really?
Yeah. What was the name of that group?
What happened to that?
And they were on TV all the time.
And we had a small branch of them here.
Okay.
Yeah. Petered out.
Yeah.
Yeah, petered out.
Yeah.
It's work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. So.
And what I have found kind of just in my own experience, when things are happening, everybody gets involved, and then when things are quiet, which of course we all want things to be quiet, people, and all of that participation decreases as well. So I'm just here to say we always have to keep that going, because just because, the attacks, as people say, stopped, that doesn't mean that, we all still don't need to take care of each other in our neighborhoods.
Now, you were talking about we didn't have a Law and Order ending to
Right,
that story, but there were some people who were arrested for other things. What were they arrested for?
I don't have any specific charges or anything. I know at that period there were obviously people arrested. And like we were saying, what I was telling you, this was off air. I can, as a police officer, I can feel that maybe somebody's responsible for something right through my training and just through other clues, and I can feel like somebody probably is this person who's out here robbing people. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I think or what I feel. It only matters what I can prove. So as officers, a lot of times too, that's frustrating because we know somebody's out there doing bad, right? But if I don't have any proof to put that person in jail, and if I arrest them for something else, in my heart, I'm like, that's probably the guy, but that doesn't matter at the end of the day. And nobody cares what I think, only just what we can prove. So, it's our legal system, and that's how it should be, right? Because if you start letting things like that happen, well, now people are just going off of feelings, arresting people for the wrong reason. But, so.
You're the liaison.
Yes, sir.
This was the first liaison position that we had in the Dallas Police Department, and we've had it since the early 90s. What are the other liaisons in the police department now?
As far as the LGBT, or do you mean just other in general?
Well, no, the other in general.
So we have Unidos, which is our Hispanic outreach, and then of course in the Office of Community Affairs, the office I work out of, we have our African American outreach and our Asian outreach. And then Unidos is the Hispanic one, and then so now I'm the LGBT liaison, which essentially is the LGBT outreach. So I'm the only liaison, I guess, title wise.
Oh, okay.
If you think about that, yeah.
Outreach liaison.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of basically the same thing. It's groups working in those communities together to bring awareness, to do events, and let everybody know that in the city of Dallas, we love everyone. We protect everyone just the same, and we're here working for you.
Okay, so one of my questions that I had was really about Hispanic outreach, which you do some of within the LGBT community, especially if somebody's not documented. They're afraid to call the police, and for good for good reasons of fear, but not really a good reason. Dallas police are not doing immigration work, are they?
Correct.
And that has nothing to do with our being a sanctuary city, because we're not.
Right.
There aren't any sanctuary cities in Texas, and never have been. That was a fake issue that was created. But you're not doing immigration work.
Right. Our job, we're not immigration officers. Our job is to protect and serve the city of Dallas. That's it.
So if somebody has a break-in, they don't have legal status, you're not going to take a police report and then say, can I see your legal status?
No, we're going to find out who they are. Obviously, I need a name to go on the report, but our inquiry into who they are isn't about us trying to find out if they're undocumented or not. It's just us trying to find out who you are, reporting what stuff was taken, for legal purposes. I have to have a name on a report. You're saying your stuff got taken. It doesn't matter to me that, you're undocumented or not. I just want to help you get your police report, and if I need to get crime scene out and everything else. So.
And we're running out of time.
Oh no!
I know.
I was just getting started.
Anything that you want the community to know about the Dallas Police Department, or how you can help somebody in our community or even out of our community? Your first question to somebody when they call is not, are you gay? Are you lesbian?
No, not at all.
Are you transgender?
I'm just like, how you doing? I'm Amber. What's your name? No, that doesn't matter to me. I think with me being appointed liaison, so just a quick history. I know we have to go. The prior two liaisons were both white. I'm the first minority liaison to hold the position, and being Latina, that means a lot to me. So I'm very proud of that. I think it signals that the department is diverse and knows that it needs to have people on the force that are representative of the community they serve. So I'm here for everyone, and you don't have to be gay for me to help you. I'm a police officer for everyone, of course, and if there's anything that I can do, I want you to know that you have an officer you could call. Please follow me on Twitter at DPD Roman. That's my last name, Roman. I'm here for everyone, and you'll see me out in the community. So if you see me, say hi. I love talking to folks. Obviously, I'm the reason we've run out of time, probably. So, thank you guys for having me on.
Thank you so much for being.
Yeah, I love Knon.
Yeah, and that's it for this week. We'll be back with more Lambda Weekly next Sunday at 1. We'll see you then.
This is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please leave comments below, or like, follow, or subscribe to us and get notices of all our videos. We love it, even when you call.